activity. As many of you know, Hispalyt is an association of ceramic manufacturers that make the effort of bringing knowledge related with ceramics to different universities in Spain, and specifically to us here. As part of the activities, there are different points that I will show you now very quickly, because the important thing is that we will have the main activity, which is a lecture. So an architect coming here explaining his experience working with, in general, with the architectural practice, but specifically also with the ceramics in the facade or in the we have also another thing interesting. Normally in our school, we are implementing the Hispalyt competition in the 4th course. So some of you has participated already, and most of you will participate in the next years in the 4th course. There, what we do is to develop the project, thinking or with the condition of introducing the ceramics mainly in the facade, but also in the conceptual strategy of the project. So we'll have the results of this year competition, and I hope that you will like. Some of you probably are here, other are not, because maybe they were Erasmus or they are doing another thing. But anyway, we will clap all of them, and you will see some images of the projects. So. As I was explaining, the students' competition. Normally, we are a bit special in our school because we, as you know, we work all levels together with a common thematic. This, for example, this year is the Valencian waterfront, as you know. So we need to manage somehow to play with our necessities in the school and also the competition, which is a national competition. What we try to put together is a program, for example. This year, Hispalyt sent this subject to all schools, the 21st Century Library in Zamora, a city inland in Spain, using brick facades. This was the program. There are more details in the webpage. It is a focus to architecture students or young professionals having finished in the last 2 years. There are 2 ways, or there is a local competition for all the schools that are participating. There are 23, so most of the schools in Spain are participating in this competition. And also for the ones that are not, or maybe they don't belong to any institution, they can participate in the competition through other way, which is the Hispalyt local prize. Kind of similar as a local school, but let's say with no location. Both prizes, so all the first unmentioned prizes from the local schools and the Hispalyt local prize, go to the national prize, which is the most important one, and obviously has a better value and also prize itself, as you will see. Here you can see all the schools that are in Spain. As I said, there are 23 from all over Spain. Also, for example, in Valencia, we have the Polytechnic universities also participating. Each of them regulates or introduces the system of the Hispalyt in their own system in different ways. So, in your case, the ones that are not participating in the 4th course, and you are interested in participating in the competition, you are still in time to do it. And this is something that we encourage you to do, because you can do it even by teams, and this is something that can be interesting for you, 3 people. And you can participate through the Hispalyt local competition. The Hispalyt local prize is the way that you could do, and also the ones that has won the competition of the local of the CEU will also participate through there if they want to get into the national prize. The jury is composed. We had the jury yesterday. This is why we are announcing today the results. The jury in all schools normally works in the same way, which is the director of the school, the Hispalyt coordinator, a local professor that has nothing to do with the process, let's say. So it's kind of objective, and Enrique-san, which is the coordinator of the Foro Cerámico, which is basically Hispalyt. The local prices are, for the first prize is 300 euros. And for the two mentions, it's just no economic prize, but they get also a title for the curriculum. And for the national prize is 3,000, and two mention of 1,000 each. This is the jury for the national and local Hispalyt competition. They are well-recognized architects in Spain. They are very known by their experience and also by the relation somehow with the use of bricks as well. There is another way to participate that maybe some of you can be interested, that is through the TFM, so the master degree or the grade final TFG. So you can basically focus if you want, if you are interested, and you are starting in this moment or thinking how to focus in this TFG or TFM, you could think about focusing it using, again, some strategy using bricks in facades or using bricks in the project. In this way, if you do that, your project is somehow fits in the standards that need to participate in this competition, which is a different one from the local that we saw previously. So TFM is for architecture students or young architects with a TFM using bricks in facades, or TFG, it's more focused in research, so academic research or some kind of document developed in order to find or deep in the use of bricks in architecture. Registration is the same way. I'm going to pass quickly, and the prices for this competition is 1,000 or 500. Here you can find the jury, which is kind of similar. Some of them are common architects in relation to the previous one, well recognized and experts in the matter. And then there is another activity that Hispalyt offers to us, which is the one that we are doing today, which is Lecciones Aprendidas, basically lectures of experts showing their experience in built projects in the use and using bricks in the facade or in the project itself. Today we have with us Néstor Montenegro, who is explaining us these many projects, but also and mainly probably this library in Boadilla and Monte, where you can see that the use of brick is one of the strategic architectural acts in the way of thinking the volumetry and the project itself. There are others that that are now doing lectures in other schools. They won't come here, but you can find these lectures in the Foro Cerámico webpage, so you can somehow see all the projects that they are offering to the different schools. We need to choose one. We chose Néstor, but there are other architects that that you can see on the webpage. And finally, technical lectures in the same way. If you are interested in the using of bricks, or you're interested in introducing them in your project, this kind of techniques, you will find also many information in the webpage with all the thematics related with bricks and beam, bricks and sustainability, circularity, the use of bricks in structure and as a passive strategy as well. There are many informations that you can find, technical information. So feel free and to ask me if you need something, if you are interested, and I can help you to find the information that you want. And finally, the diffusion. So how Hispalyt works to disseminate all the activities that they do or we do together. First of all, the prizes ceremony, which takes every year place in normally Madrid, where all the local winners and also the national winner goes together to share their project and to show it to the other and have, let's say, a common event to share their experiences. And then also there is a publication with the winners of every year. And also, as I said, in the webpage, you can find all the information again. So, if you want, we can announce the prizes that we defined yesterday, okay? You don't need to come if you are here, because actually we don't have, as it was just yesterday, we don't have the diploma and we don't have any kind of document, but we can clap together and we will do that in the future, okay? So let's start. There are 1 first prize, 2 mentions, and 2 finalists, okay? So the first finalist is Carolina Malota. She is not here, I guess, because she was Erasmus last semester. She's from Poland. But you can contact them. Probably you have her in WhatsApp, so you can send a message, because she doesn't know. And let's go with the second finalist, Soliman Ramouni. And then the mentions. The second mention, because they are hierarchized, let's say. The second mention is for Louis Lafayette, who is not here. In the jury minutes, there is a description of all the projects explaining why the jury found interesting and what positive points we found to define these prizes, okay? We'll make you know. The first mention is for Christian Justin Dimitru, also Erasmus, from Romania. And finally, first prize is for Marcelo Rojas, local student. Congratulations to all of you. And enjoy the prize, Marcelo. And finally, we are now starting with Néstor, which is what we came here to do. Huh? I'm going to try to introduce very quickly Néstor, because it's kind of difficult to do it. He sent me a CV, and I felt actually depressed myself, because I thought what I did in my life. And it's overwhelming, and it is the activity that he has done during this time. He's in this moment leading actually 2 practices, X Studio, which is the main one, related with architecture, and Fondo Studio, founded this year, related with interior design. He's also professor in 2 universities, in the Universidad Europea, European University of Madrid, and also as associate in the Polytechnic University of Madrid. But he has been previously in Camilo José Cela University or the International University of Barcelona. There's a long list of invited universities, like I will just highlight some of them, like Montevideo, Escola da Cidade, which is a very prestigious university in Brazil, in São Paulo, the TU, Technical University of Berlin, Basque Country as well, or Antwerp in Belgium. In research, he's leading with 2 big platforms of research. One is Transdisciplinary Architectural Practices Observatory, where the director is Juan Herreros, and Lina, which is the European architecture platform, where he was explaining to me that he is the platform that is trying to highlight and to export the activity of the architects through Europe. So changing and bringing and giving the possibility to, let's say, good practices to make or develop experiences abroad. As editorial activity, he is the editor and director of several, or he has been in several journals, like Transfer, and he was also in Revista Arquitectos from the Higher Council of the Schools of Architecture in Spain. And then in works, I just chose the first prizes and of the list, and only with the first prizes I have, let's say, more close to 30 here. So I will highlight some of them, like probably the ones that he is going to show, I guess, like the 102 dwellings in Carabanchel. He has many projects related with housing, which is interesting, like the 60 dwelling housing also in Colmenar Viejo, and other individual housing that I didn't list here, and then cultural buildings as well, like the Social Services Center in Móstoles, Theater plus Library in Boadilla del Monte, which is probably the one that we're going to see, health centers as well, another dwelling housing, 200 dwellings in Sevilla, Elderly People Center in Boadilla, and finally, the last one he won, which is the Spanish Pavilion for the Universal Expo in Osaka. So we'll have the opportunity to have some advance of this project that is under construction in this moment. I was listing also the places where he has make some lecture, but again, it's something that it's huge, and mainly I can see that mainly are related with South America and Europe, but also China, Abu Dhabi, USA, and many other countries. So happy to have you here, Nestor, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first of all, perfecto. Sí, por fuera. Okay. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a big pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for coming. This is important. Thank you for also. Thank you to Foro Cerámico for inviting us to this year's lecture series. Not only for the big effort on organizing, thank you Enrique and Valverde, but also because to us it's very important to have this moment to review our work and to try to put together some images that at the end will explain our agenda, the one that is on the table right now when we work, but also to check whether this agenda comes from things that have already been reviewed in the past and things that we have already worked in some projects. Sergio, thank you for making me embarrassed through this lecture. Reading of our curricula. But to me, maybe the most important thing to say about what we do is that we like being with our eyes very open towards many things that are not architecture. Especially art, we feel very, very comfortable understanding that there are other creators that are thinking somehow same way as we do towards the results we have to create with our own media. So they use different media, but the way they think about their work and about expressing how the world is, at the end, this is what we do in architecture, understanding the world and trying to materialize the answers we like giving to those issues. But artists do the same. This is a picture of Nadev Kandar of the Yangtze River. And in a way, it concentrates most of the things we understand that architecture has to deal with. So at the end, there's a group of people sitting around a table. They might be having like a spare day by the river. They're barefoot, walking on top of this mountain of garbage that is mainly coming from construction, and is mainly actually ceramics. Spending this time under this infrastructure that in a way is not a habitable one, but they are making it inhabitable. They are using it as an architecture. They are using it as a space in which they can in a way develop their lives. There's some people looking through a window. The window is not there, but someone is looking through the window and is looking at this man that is sailing his little boat in this river. And at the same time, they are being viewed by this guy. So this guy is also looking at them and trying to understand this is sin. And this is at the end what architecture is. It's just creating the right space for people to gather and for people to develop activities, any activity that is on the table. I will organize the lecture through 3 different concepts, if we can call them so. There is attraction. Well, sorry, because the lecture is not translated into English on the images, but there are very few words, and I will translate them for you, of course. So organized in these 3 big things. Attractions that are things that we pursue when we work. We look for them when we work. Okay, we have this agenda of things that we look for when we work, and we call them attractions. Then there are some obsessions. We don't look for them; they look for us. It doesn't matter what we do, but at the end, you can realize that you're just doing again the same thing because you are in a way obsessed with these things that we will discuss later. And then fetishes. We cannot share all of our fetishes, but we can share some. This is very personal. It's not even belonging to the office. It's something that comes specifically from me, so I can share this with you. But if someone else from my office would come and do the lecture, would put some different images and some different objects on that part of the lecture. And I'm doing this because I think it's important to understand the layers of the architecture that we deal with or that we create, how these layers are more or less related to these words or these concepts. So industrialization is something that we are really looking for from our very first work. I will actually explain our very first project that we did 20 years ago already. But preparing the lecture, I think it's interesting, even though it's not ceramics, but I think it's interesting to understand that our work has been in a way following the same path from the very, very beginning of our office. So industrialization is one of those things we really understand. It's important because the constructive process has to be optimized, or we understand that that we need to optimize those construction processes in order, since we work mainly with public architecture, for public institutions, we understand that optimizing the investment that those institutions do in the project is important. So we understand that through industrialization we can optimize systems. That in a way is a bigger way of industrializing. So not only the construction, but also what we draw. It's important that we try to synthesize on the smaller amount of things what we want to propose in each architecture, so we can repeat these things. Then we can find what is specific on 1 or 2 or 3 of those pieces on the system to create a series. And then the public. As I said, we mainly work with public institutions towards public buildings. So architecture has to be very generous when it comes to the site, when it comes to the context. Of course, we need to answer to our clients' let's say requests, but through our architecture, we need to try to solve for the things that are in the context or that are in the surroundings, even in the very same spot in which the architecture is placed. We really believe that architecture has this ability of being very generous towards the site, and this is how we believe architects should respond to the site, to the, let's say, to the public institution or to the public space, being generous. And yes, I will explain this very first project we made. This, as I said, is it's already 20 years old. By then, I was working with Ignacio Borrego and Lina Toro. We were partners for 10 years in Dos Más Uno Arquitectos, and we won this competition. I think we were very young. We were like, Lina was 25, Ignacio and me, we were 26, and 27 actually. And we entered this competition with a lot of offices, big offices, because we were invited actually to the competition. And we thought we really needed to concentrate on very small decisions, our strength, because otherwise, in case we won the competition, we were going to fight too many times with too many people about too many things. And we didn't have this capacity. We were, again, young, so we didn't have the experience on doing this. So this is the building. You may have seen it because, as I said, it's already 20 years old, and it's been published all over the world many times, luckily. So we very much concentrated on creating this unit. This unit, in fact, has nothing very special. It's just answering to the very specific sizes of rooms on Spanish regulation for public housing. Public housing is for renting, so this is one single. I mean, one unit with one single bedroom. So this is very, very much the unit that the regulation creates. But we had to answer to a program that added some housing with 2 bedrooms and with 3 bedrooms. But again, this was our starting point. And from here, we needed to create the full program. So what we decided is to introduce the industrialization of this unit, this very unit of 1 bedroom, in order to create one block that was strong enough in terms of structure to hold those cantilevers that would contain the 2nd bedroom and the 3rd bedroom plus the bathroom in case of a 3 bedrooms unit. These cantilevers are hanging almost 6 meters from the block, and this can only happen without any extra cost for the client, because the block is absolutely full made of concrete. Thank you. So all the partitions that you see there are concrete. All the installations are inside those concrete walls. And of course, this is not the type of unit we would be working with right now, because many things happen afterwards, and we feel stronger, so we can really discuss with our clients about different things. But for this time, since it was housing for rent, we felt comfortable enough, so people wouldn't have the opportunity to change their spaces, and actually they would be on those spaces only temporarily, so very little time of their lives. So I'm going to show some images of the construction process, because I think it's interesting to understand that these molds are aluminum molds, because one worker should be able to carry those molds, so we avoid having cranes on site, for instance. So smaller pieces and lighter pieces, so everyone could move it. And well, sorry, I will go back, because it's important to understand that the process is just as this drawing. We first draw the house in the ground, and we create the frames and the installations. Then we do the cast and the concrete, and then we uncast it. This is a process of 1 day. So 1 day, 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. So once you have created the first 4, you create one house every day. So we are also saving time. That is very important in terms of money and in terms of construction. So let's say that at the beginning we were not very on the line of the one house per day, but after the first 15, 20, we really got there, and this is 102 dwellings. So in fact, we saved like a lot of time with this process. So this is how it looks when you only have all the steel and the installations and the isolation of the house that is within two sheets of concrete. This is when we decast it. This is how it looks when we take the cast out. Okay, but again, I'm going to go through some projects very quickly, but there are some aspects of this one that I would like to also to explain. As I said, we very much care about how the building creates the public space, not only for the city, but in this case for our citizens that were these 102 families arriving to this spot of Madrid that is on the surroundings. It's one of these big extensions of Madrid that were planned on the 80s, 90s, and we came here on year 2004 for starting building. There were no facilities there. There were no even public transport, just one bus arriving here. So everyone would come to their house by car, as they do on these areas. And we were worried that the way of coming to your house could be those usually dark spaces where you leave the car. Normally they smell bad. Normally they are not like the nicest spots. They are not very safe. And we understood this could be an opportunity to create a different way of arriving to your house. So we decided to open the full garage, the parking for the cars, to open it and to bring the greenery down to this space, so it could become a park. You would come to your house through a park. All those trees these pictures are as old as the building. So all these trees are now huge, almost covering the views of the building, creating the shadow we were expecting on this plaza, but also creating this 2 layers garden where your car and your kids are playing at the same time, and it's kind of a more beautiful way to arrive to your place when you are able to see your house from where you parked your car and not really arriving to this underground, picking the lift and arriving to your door. So it's more or less this floor plan. We concentrated the housing on the very, very limit in order to leave all this free space for the two plazas, the underground and the above ground, to happen together with the greenery. As I said, these are already now 20-year-old trees, so huge, really amazing. So let's go to obsessions. These are the ones, really the ones. I have a thing with the order, really difficult thing. And at the end, what we try when we draw programs is to understand which pieces of the programs can be packed in order to create even constructive elements. So not only programs, but how these programs can turn into something different that could understand and would in a way order the construction of one project. Circulations, actually the lack of circulations. This is something that we very much look for, and is trying to avoid non-necessary circulations, and when we need them, we try to turn them into something else. I mean, not only a place to walk from one point to another point, but something should happen on this spot, on this space, in order to become a program. So the circulations at the end are programs themselves. And then perimeters. You've seen the drawing I showed about the 102 housing units in Carabanchel, in which we placed this building on the very border of the plot. And this is coming to our work like many times. We are working with perimeters many times, so ordering and creating a perimeter, so to understand that there's an inside and an outside, not necessarily climatized and non-climatized, but like, let's say, your own space versus the space you share with others. And at the end, you are building your own territory. So how to create this territory through architecture is something that we very much think, even though sometimes we don't realize that we do. So this is a housing project. The first prize we won for the public company of Sevilla, 200 units with Oscar Rueda, María José Pizarro, David Casino and Bernardo Angelini, all of them amazing architects. This is something good about X-Studio, and it's that we very much like to share our time with other architects and with other people, with other teams, in order to learn from each other. I think it's good. We've done almost everything with partners, most of the times architects, but sometimes non-architects too, because they really enrich the processes, and it's very, for me, is why I work, is because I learn every day from people. So we did this competition with these very amazing architects. We won. We will not build it, just to be clear. And there was something very interesting coming on the brief of the competition, and it was about. It was almost the same thing as the first project. So houses for renting, but on the briefing they were asking us to understand how the house will change during the time in order to, let's say, allow different families to live there, how the families may grow and degrow on the time, or how we could have as different families different needs. So how to organize this space for those different people through the time. Okay, so we thought, I'm sure that there's something here that if I press it, I will have a pointer. Or not. Yes, maybe here. No, it's okay. I will point with my finger. So at the end, what we try to do is to pack, this is very simple and very obvious, to pack all those elements that are installations and storage, okay? So we made these two big blocks. Gracias. So we made these two big blocks that would separate each unit, and we, at the end, would leave the inner space absolutely empty with two facades, north and south, and we would allow, with the smaller elements, lighter elements, easier to remove elements, the different organizations of the rooms that may be needed for the people who would live here. Actually, we would create these two galleries, one private gallery over there, one public gallery here, and this space, this intermediate space in which you can relate with your neighbors, but it keeps on being private, so you can have your bikes there, you can have your little table for your lunch or plants or whatever, while you create this filter from the very public gallery to your more private day space. There are some considerations to be done about how this infrastructure, because at the end we were really creating an infrastructure in which almost everything could happen, how this infrastructure relates to the energy consumption, for instance, or how we could see if summer and winter rooms could be switched. So we spend summer in the north and we spend winter in the south, or of course, like all these different considerations. Even if a room can be used for working, then it's separate and it has a direct access from the public gallery. And we created this chart of all the options we came with during the competition for the different typologies that were asked, because at the end, of course, we needed to answer to the same regulations as we did almost 20 years before, because the regulation has not changed for housing. So all the same sizes for the rooms, for the toilets, for the kitchens, for everything. So we tried with this chart to answer to these needs. And here it comes the ceramics, because you may be thinking about this lecture being ceramics and not really being ceramics. But yeah, so we started thinking how to filter, how to use these galleries like filters also for weather. This is Sevilla. You may know it's super hot in the summer. So we very much needed to understand how to refresh the houses without using too much energy. So we decided that one filter would be vegetation. This is very classic. So I mean, we all know that if you do plants, you get shadow, and then the air is fresher. And of course, through the watering of the plants, you also refresh the space. And on the other side, we have these huge ceramic elements that could be humidified, could be water somehow, in order to get them humid, so the air going through them would become also fresher. Again, it's very traditional way of refreshing the inside of a house. You may know that if you put a wet textile on your window and the air goes through the textile, then the inside atmosphere is fresher. So, okay, not textiles, but vegetation and other wet elements that could refresh the house in this way. Other researches on the buildings, of course, again, the parking space is open to the zero level. So we do have a plaza on the -1 and a plaza on the zero level. This time we also have a plaza on the roof. This is something we've learned through the years, that the roof is a very interesting space to be used, and to be used not only for installations, but also for smart installations. So how to deal with this. So at the end, there's a discourse on energy through the full building. But this section is to come to this image. That is the end image of the building, but also to this floor plan. This is not a gesture we made. This is a very precise plot that we were given. So this shape is not ours. Someone else draw this shape, many of these shapes, crazy, on the site. So for us architects to then come and build. No? But it's interesting because it doesn't really matter. If you have a system and you really understand how this system may bend, then you can very easily follow the line, the given line. No, this is the given line. And at the end, again, we were creating a perimeter. So that's why perimeters are emerging on almost every project. We created this perimeter in which we understand what is inside, what is outside, all this space for our citizens, again, for our building, and the outside more closed with the private terraces towards the city. So what I said about north and south is not really true, because as you see, houses have almost every orientation, but the systems are working equally in any of the direction. This is also important for us. We could change the type of vegetation. We could decide whether to wet or not the ceramics, but the ceramics were also creating a kind of private atmosphere towards the outside. This idea about the perimeters is something that Rubén Martín Lucas, who is a very interesting artist, explores on a series of interventions in the landscape, like this one you're seeing. So in this vast territory, he has many. I very much encourage you to look for his work, because he's an amazing artist. He works with these site-specific pieces, but also with the measuring of these pieces and then translating them into paintings. So it's really an amazing guy. So he has a series in which he's working on this way of understanding the appropriation of the landscape. So he's just creating these perimeters. He's placing some common elements inside them, and here he's even running around this perimeter. No, so really clear now. This is my space. This is not my space. And I think there's something from reading his work that at the end stays in our architecture, and we've been working with this idea of perimeters many times. This is a house in Mallorca that we are almost finishing the construction. on a very, very strange space, because there's a huge amount of square meters, like hectares, of crops, of fields. The family living from those fields, they want to build a small house for his son, and they decide to do it there, since they can do it because the regulation allow us. So at the end, we were working on how to create our specific space for his house, and leaving the rest of the crops just there, because they live from that. So they need to keep on growing there, all those cereals, and where to place this. But at the end, they had this little storage here. This piece is existing piece. So we decided to do the fence around, and then to place some another extra pieces in there in order to complete the program of the house, and separate these little cloisters, like gardens, private gardens, and more public gardens for the family. This is another scale project. It's an elderly housing project in Extremadura. That this is a lost competition. I think it's important also to show things that we lose, because at the end the research is also there. It's not only on the things we build, it's also on the things we don't build. So we decided to use the smallest unit on the program, that is the room, the room for two people, as the element to conquer the surroundings, to create this again perimeter, and then leave the inside space as a garden with the public areas of the levers here, and how to organize this program as cloisters. But I didn't mention that the previous project is ceramics, but it is. But this one is the first approach we made to the celosía we are doing later on the library. So how with the brick create a facade that can be completely closed, or that it could leave the air enter the patios that are in between the rooms. So we have room, patio, room, patio, room, patio, room, patio. Okay, this is in one single story. And some other housing projects. This is a competition for a housing block, collection of blocks in Boadilla. Of course, the perimeter is there, but also how to, after pandemics, how to understand that we've created so many new programs within our houses that we need new spaces to develop those programs. So no corridors anymore, but the corridors should be big enough in order to put your desk there and work, or to have your kids working there, or to place a 20 people table for your Christmas dinner. So you should use those spaces, making them wider, and allow them for extra uses. I mean, just a small detail of the unit, and this was also proposed in brick, with a very traditional way of constructing the facade. So no big research here, just understanding that a very humble material as the brick is can become a very interesting facade when you work with the hose, with the different layers, and so on. Okay, and here the most difficult part of the talk today, and is share some fetish with you. Don't worry, it's going to be clean. So this is San Pedro de la Nave Church. I'm from Zamora, and this church is just like 15 kilometers away from where my family comes from. I was born in Madrid, but we all come from there. And this church, that is a very amazing example of Romanic. It was just there. It was just 15 kilometers away of where I spent many months during summer. By then, it has a very interesting short story. This was built on the 7th century, but then it was rebuilt on 1930 because there was I don't have the word in English, of course. Okay, they were building this big infrastructure for holding water, and they had to remove all the people from a little village towards a higher point in order not to cover everything. And since this was a very, very important piece, they also removed it. They removed it from their original position and moved it to a new position, but in the same area. So, as I said, early 80s, biking here took like 10 minutes, and this was open. I mean, it's a very important piece of architecture, but no one was really caring about it at that time. It was completely open. You could play inside, outside. You could run over there. So I've lived this place from my very childhood, and there are some things here that, of course, remain on you when you have experienced this space. You have it with you, so you try to reproduce it. You try to work with it. Since you have a very good memories of it. So it's interesting, of course, on the floor plan, these hugely thick walls with these very small openings on them, different sizes for different rooms. I didn't bring the section, but the section is also very interesting. So how these spaces are related to each other through these thick walls, but also through the different heights. And as I said, it's something that at the end is present on our work. This is a house that also building right now, but it started research, just a small research, on how to pack the smaller programs on a house in order to create walls. So we were packing, of course, storage, simple, but we were also packing all the toilet elements separately. So you could use the toilet plus the lavabo, sorry, I don't have the words suddenly, the sink, thank you, and you could use the shower separately, but at the same time you could try to create those spaces in order to activate those walls. So of course I could show this floor plan without furniture. Furniture would be a thing that we will discuss later, but I could show this. And in fact, if I show this image, we don't find the bedrooms, we don't find the kitchen, we don't find the living, because in fact, all those spaces in the house should be activated from the wall. Of course, the openings are there, but the openings are not windows, are spaces in where to be. I mean, we are working with this. This generated two other projects. This is one project in Segovia. We are finally not building, but it's just the same system, the very same system. We started actually here working with industrializing those elements. Since we did have 3 different projects working with the same system, we were thinking, okay, let's see if we industrialize some parts of the construction. We didn't, but we made the research with a company that could create those furnitures. And from this image, that is the same house, the house in Segovia. From this image, I only wanted to show you this, because beside the very regular housing program, there are many programs happening on a house that they normally don't have a space to happen. And we like understanding that we can make this happen through other objects that could contain separate programs added to the house. And when we have a plot like this one, this is the plot we have in Segovia, it's very important also to let your clients understand that they can use the whole area that they do have. It's a very beautiful, narrow plot getting into the woods. So we try to understand if we can, with other programs, for instance, we brought here space for reading, if we can really colonize the whole space for our client. And this is the next fetish. This is a piece of art by Guillermo Cuitca, an Argentinian painter, but it's very much related with those floor plans of Sana'a. If you've seen the Rolex Center, for instance, in which there's just a space. Of course, it has conditions. The Rolex Center has a topography, many things we could discuss. I'm not here to talk about Sana'a's work, but at the end is the furniture that makes the use, that makes the program. So how you place the furniture, how you relate one people to another people, is how you create really the program. This is just the first picture we saw of Nader Kandar, these people around the table. If we sit like this, I'm lecturing, you are listening. But if we empty this room of chairs and tables and we prepare them differently, we will have a different relation. So at the end, it's furniture that is creating this room for me to speak to you. It's not really the room that is created for that reason. So we very much believe that objects and folies, when objects are big enough, they are not furniture anymore, they can be called folies, in a way are complementing the spaces towards the program. This is a competition we lost, but we were very close to win it. For the Fundación Biodiversidad, this is a public foundation that acts, sorry, I'm getting closer to something, yeah, that acts towards all the companies that are taking care of the planet. It's so open, okay? So they give funds to those companies for very specific programs. And they were moving from they are part of a public ministry, and they were moving from the ministry to a very weird space, to just a warehouse in the center of Madrid, and they were asking some architects to create the space for them. And what we decided is to create some species for them. Since they work for the planet, we try to create some architectural species that will relate to each other. Some of them are installations, some of them are only elements for creating spaces, some others are conditioning the space, like you may see with these curtains and so on. But yeah, we created these many different pieces, and I'm going to go through this project very quickly. And at the end, we created this ecosystem. So how these species would relate to each other, and by relating, how they could design the whole space for these people to work. And you, when I was explaining this, because of the folies, I was thinking, where's the bricks? The bricks are there. This is a brick mountain. This mouse is impossible to use. This is a brick mountain coming from all the demolition we made in the warehouse. Okay, this warehouse was was completely divided in smaller pieces, and I think this was one of the first times, 2013, one of the first times we started thinking about circularity on our buildings. So if we are demolishing, what are we doing with this huge amount of materials we are getting? And we just left it, we were supposed to leave them there, okay? So we decided to create this mountain out of all of the material of demolition, and how this mountain would, in a way, be usable. So we could go there for lunch, nice seats, overlooking the whole people working, or we could create an extension of our lecturing room, or, I mean, we could just separate what is public from what is private on this building. Yeah, so at the end, folies. And then the last of the fetish is clouds. Clouds, I mean, this is something that I'm sure a lot of us will share, because clouds are this amazing thing happening. Many architects have think about it, like Yunya Ishigami on this building. But some other creators too. This is a drawing by Juan Borchers, understanding how a cloud is dissolving or changing and then dissolving, and just doing the schedule of this cloud, so how it began and how it ended. This is Walter Marchetti drawing the movement of a fly on a window, just again doing the right timing of the fly moving around the window. So it doesn't really need to have with material. It also has to do with movement. So we can understand a cloud is something material, but we can also understand the movement of it. We can also try to understand the timing of a cloud. So how much time really, how much long is the life of a cloud? We don't know. I mean, in fact, it's eternal, but we can discuss about this. We will not, but we could. But it brings a lot of things to our architecture. We really want to have on our architecture. So thinking about how we change things, thinking about how long will our architecture remain. because at the end, it could even not exist. This is a picture of John Milley, and it's Picasso drawing. Okay, so he's drawing with a light element, and this piece of art does not exist, but through the technique of the photographer that made it. Okay, so it's actually a drawing by Picasso, but if John Milley was not there, this was not existing. So, in fact, it doesn't exist, because the piece of art by Picasso, it's only on the camera. It's not even on the side. You cannot see this when it happens. Okay, so let's bring all these aspects of a cloud to our architecture, and let's think about it from the architecture point of view. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, these are fetishes, so sometimes are difficult to share. Maybe we don't agree. It doesn't really matter. To me, they make a lot of sense, okay? So at the end, and what we can share. So industrialization, systems, the public, order, circulations, and perimeters. And I will now explain the library and theater in Boadilla, because it contains most of those things, if not all of those things. Again, it's a project that we made sharing with Alberto y Beatriz from Matos Castillo, and Tony Gelaber, who was part of Exstudio at that time. He now has his own office, and he's making amazing work too. And the library is there, over there. So we are just on the very center of a small town called Boadilla that is protected, okay? They have a very small area with buildings coming from the 16th and 17th century, just housing. Boadilla was a super small village, and it grew a lot, of course. But yeah, so we are there just on the very center, related to this building. That is the Palace of Infante Don Luis, who had this house for his holidays and weekends, with an amazing garden. It's beautiful to visit it. It's very well restored. And we are just there, okay? So we are facing this palace, even though it looks far. We are just facing the fence of the palace, and the fence is also protected. And let me tell you that the library is a refurbishing. So this was the existing building. Made in 1985 by the architect who was running all the architecture in the Comunidad de Madrid by that time, so from the administration. And she built this, okay, maybe by then it was, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to criticize the building, but it's important to understand that the building was old in many senses. So the library plus the theater are sharing building, sharing entrance, sharing one staircase that is back here. So it was not working very well, because they needed to open during different times, like the library and the theater should be absolutely separate. It was not very much working towards regulation, so they had some issues with accessibility and some other issues. And at the end, the municipality decides to do a competition to refurbish the building. And we enter the competition, and we propose this. Okay, this is the already built project, but the image is just precisely as the image we submitted to the competition. It's amazing. It's the first time that this happened to us. It's just the same. Even the pine tree is there. The pine tree was there. The pine tree is there. The pine tree is in the image. I mean, amazing. So it looks like a render, but it's not a render. It's like the real building. So this is a way we very much like to do our competitions. When we don't have a professional, let's say, architects jury, it was mainly politicians and some technicians from the municipality. So we like to make questions and answer, very simple questions and answer, in order to explain our strategies. I will go through some of them very quickly. As I said, the program, it was important to divide. So this was our main decision. Let's divide the library from the theater, and let's create a small building just for the entrance of the theater. The theater remains in the same position. We switched it, because at the beginning this was the entrance, and and this was the stage, and now this is the entrance and this is the stage. But let's create two buildings out of one building, and for the city, as I was explaining at the beginning, let's create this very small plaza, a bit raised from the ground on our new 0 level. So for the two public buildings to be related, and at the same time to create this space out of a very, very heavy traffic roundabout that is just here separating us from the palace. So our first decision, two buildings out of one. Second decision, there's a picture. Sorry, this is the little plaza entering the theater and the library. So another decision, it was how to understand that this building was a library, because in fact, it could be a library or anything, because it only was like one floor on top of each other, actually very low floors, not even 250. So we had to make some extra things when refurbishing. I will explain shortly later. But we really wanted to understand where the library could be. And we had this, as you've noticed on the first image, we had this very steep roof, also tile roof. So we decided, okay, since we cannot really add any extra square meters, but we could change the volume, let's do this. Okay, so we removed the steep roof and we created a double space up there. And this looks like very simple. We just changed the element of the structural elements of the roof. Became a huge problem. The municipality made this competition in 2 stages. They invited, they wrote 2 of the offices just to ask some questions, and we got 1 question. What have you done with the structure? Like this, what have you done with the structure? And we were like, what have we done with the structure? Like nothing. We didn't really know. And but something was happening there. So we had a week to go to an interview and explain what we had done with the structure, and going back to old drawings of the 80s when it was built, we finally understood, because we were given very, very little documentation during the competition project. We understood that this roof, in fact, was trusses, so the structure was hanging from the roof, so to leave the empty space for the theater in the basement. But we had to remove all this roof with all the structure, but we said that the theater could be there. So yes, they were asking like the right question. We wanted to create this space, and we did it. But in the competition, we didn't answer to a very obvious question: what have you done with the structure? So for creating this space up there, but leaving this theater down here, so at the end we only had to switch the way of the structure work. So instead of hanging all the different floors from the roof, now we were just having like a new ground created out of concrete, so we could lean all the pillars there and leave the empty space up there. But we had to explain them that, of course, we knew, but we didn't explain too much, and so on and so on. We won the competition, and then the big thing started, because it was crazy to change this structure. Okay, we wouldn't have done it if we knew the real problem of the structure, because these that looked very small when we went to the municipality to explain them, became like a huge thing to create amazing pictures from the building, from the construction, sorry, because we could see the building from beneath. So it's beautiful to see all those pillars hanging from the roof and find this floor plan the other way around. I don't know, nice pictures, but this was the big thing. Okay, so we had to empty the full basement in order to, this is the basement emptied. Now the structure keeps on hanging from the roof, of course, otherwise the photographer was in danger. And then these guys are making holes in the existing concrete perimeter in order to do the new beams, huge beams. No sé cómo se dice postesadas, and I'm sorry for this, but it's okay, if you don't, then I feel fine. So this huge structure with these huge steel elements inside, in order to eliminate all this structure on the roof and make the new space and the new structure lighter and simpler than the one that was there. And those diagonal trusses that they may look weird, but at the end they could create the cloud we wanted to have on top of our readers. The way that the light enters there is not very regular towards the space, and this is something we liked, how these diagonals are creating like a different way of understanding the room. And in fact, this works because they are precisely facing north. So what we decided is that all the trusses would be positioned like on an east-west axis. So it creates this image on Google that I like. It's like finding the traces of the orientation of the building on your building. I will go very quickly through the floor plans, because again, we were working on packing smaller programs in order to create a perimeter for a bigger rooms that are happening in the inside, always opening towards one of the orientations, and then the main room on top with the skylights on that diagonal direction. So at the end, creating the perimeter, it was like a kind of onion work. So we had all those rooms in the center, big rooms for readers, then smaller rooms for people working in groups and all the facilities for the building and so on. And then the last layer of the onion was the facade. And the facade, from the very beginning, actually in the competition was strategic to keep the brick. All those old buildings I mentioned in Boadilla are brick buildings. Actually, if this building existed in the 85 towards the palace, by doing it in brick, we thought we are not going to have any discussion with anyone here, so let's keep it in brick. But let's think how we can avoid having these small openings that the 85 building had, more like a domestic scale, and we really were needing like a more public scale for the building. So at the end, we are working with this brick facade in order to create this very abstract element that has no scale at all. I mean, it has it, of course. It has the scale of the construction with the brick, and it also has the scale of the building when it comes to the afternoon or the evening, in which you turn on the lights and then you suddenly see what is happening inside. But our main concern was to erase any scale of the very small layering of the building we had inside. So at the end, this is what we really were expecting. When we want to open holes, we open them, but the rest of the building, even though there are some openings up there that are not down here, are is completely abstract and one single layer. So bricks that were created manually. So we went to a producer in Castilla-La Mancha, in Toledo, who had a small factory for bricks, and they could produce the elements we were needing, because since we are doing this celosía all the way up the building, it needs to be reinforced with steel elements inside the bricks. At the end, we had these three situations. One situation with the opening behind and some space for maintenance. The situation where there's no opening behind, but we keep the shape of the celosía, and then just the regular brickwork on other parts of the building. At the end, we only had these two because we avoided that one. It looked much better when we only had like the same system in the competition. We proposed to do it with a regular brick. This is a perforated brick that comes from any producer, and we were only concerned about how to reinforce it with steel. But when we came to these people, they suggested they could create a specific brick for us, so we could avoid all those holes that they could have been nice, but it's much better what we do have. So they created this piece for us, only 2 holes. So for the wires, not wires, but bars, to climb up the building and to be attached to every single horizontal element, to every slab. So it's beautiful because the work, this is the people that make it. I mean, they made it amazing. We are super happy with the construction company. We don't usually are, but we are this time. They really understood that the facade was a kind of let's say artisan work, so they really needed to be very careful on how they made it, how they put the brick, how they do the paste just on these spaces. They clean the rest of the brick. They do 1 meter bar and then they screw the next piece and so on. So they were more like costureros, like people sewing instead of really people building. And yeah, this is what we do have at the end. Is this like I don't know, this atmosphere of having a facade, but at the same time having something behind that you only see when you move, and you only see when the light comes from it during the night. It's been an amazing building for all of us. It brought us here, and I'm very happy to be here today. So it's very good that we did it. It's now under the Biennale exhibition. Because it was awarded there. I mean, it's a building that really, we are very happy that we did it. It took a lot of time. Actually, I'm gonna just explain a very small thing about the building. I will go back almost 20 minutes, okay? To the, because this happened during the pandemics, okay? The structure works were done just before the time in which we had to be home, but the facade just started the very same week as we had to stay home, okay? So when we arrived there 3 weeks later, the first 2 weeks we couldn't go to the building site, but after 2 weeks we could. They had done already the first level of it. And you may see there, up there, like a piece of steel coming out of the bricks. They were doing it wrong. They didn't understand that the L-shaped piece of steel from where we were putting all the bars and towards the brick should come, it should be a bit behind, so not to be seen from the facade, and they did it wrong, okay? So we arrived there after these 3 weeks. I don't know if you remember, I hope you don't, but very difficult weeks. And we had this huge discussion about what was happening there, why they did it wrong, why they didn't call us, why they didn't wait, blah, 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 many things. And even in between us, Beatriz and Alberto and I, we were arguing. I wanted to remove everything and to do it again, but you know, they are much better architects than I am, so they thought, okay, Néstor, we should leave it. This is a signal of the time, and it's true, and it's there, and you didn't realize, and we love it now. It's only on that corner, but yeah, but it's happening, and now we can say that this was done during the pandemics, that I think it was really important. So, so this is for the library, and I will explain very shortly because I think I'm talking too much, and I'm sorry for this. I will explain you just shortly the last competition we won in late July last year, and it's for the Spanish Pavilion in Expo Osaka 2025. We started building this 2 weeks ago, and it has to be open by the 13th of April next year, so it's 1 year construction. Again, very well team up with a lot of amazing people, Enorme Studio, Carmelo and Rocío, and Smart and Green Design, Fernando, who is an architect, but his company is dedicated to the creation of the content and the design of the exhibition itself. It's the first time that our government decides to put the two things together on a single competition. Before this, the building was on one competition and the exhibition on a second competition, but now they put it together. So we really had to team up with a lot of people, and we are doing, we are learning amazing things because we have all type of creators within the team, coming from Fernando's side, doing the exhibition. I'm not going to explain the exhibition, but I will explain a bit about the building. An international, not an international, a universal fair like this one, expo like this one, is a very singular context in which to build architecture, very singular. We need to be iconic. This is the most important thing for our client. We need to get the most visits we can get. We need to answer to a previously thought, let's say, program for the building, not the program, but the program for the visitors, like the visitor experience. In this case, the expo is about technology towards happiness. Weird, but it is. The expo is separated in 4 different areas. One of them is connecting for happiness, and we are there. We are on this area of connecting people. And the commissioner of our pavilion decided that oceans are the main, let's say, the main context in which we've been connected to the world for ages, okay? And in fact, we can talk about blue economy, in which Spain is leading many researches on oceans, on taking care of the oceans, but also to take profit on them, no? So let's make it iconic, let's walk over the water. This is what we did. So at the end, we created this horizontal facade that you can walk on the water and then enter in the pavilion through the reflection of the Spanish sun on the ocean. This sounds very even funny, but it's precisely how we started. I will explain very shortly how this expo works. So this is the plan that So Fujimoto did for the expo. So it's this huge ring. Inside the ring, all the very plots for the countries. Outside the ring, all the main venues. The ring is built. Is this piece of wood you see there? It's a 20 meters high structure of wood that you can walk under or you can walk on top. So you will see the pavilions from the 0 level, but you will also see them from the plus 12, plus 20 meters. You will have an overview of the expo from there. And the very Japanese way of understanding the public space and the urban space. Very narrow spaces, the buildings very close to each other, very interesting, very beautiful. We've been there once. The ring is it was when we were there. Actually, we are going there next week, but the ring was only 50% built, but it's amazing. The joints of the wood, everything is really beautiful. And okay, let's go back to the pavilion. We decided this is our pavilion. The sun reflecting in the ocean and walking over the waters were the main thing. Because actually this could be very easily seen from the 0 level, but also from the above level of the ring. So we would have this horizontal turning vertical facade that would be seen from these 2 spots in which people is walking. So the main thing is the facade, but in fact the pavilion is just a box, very simple box, and we are working with the facade in order to create all the spaces for the commercial spaces, the restaurants and the shops and the multi-purpose rooms in which spectacles are happening all the day and so on, okay? And this is very important because this expo will be fully removed of the site just after it happens. You can imagine how difficult this context is. We are building a 3,000 square meters building that will be there only for 6 months, okay? Only 6 months. And of course, we needed to think about circularity. So what to do with the building after the life of the building is over. So we are working with a wooden structure. Actually, our first idea it was to bring the building back to Spain. Now it looks it will stay in Japan, but on a different position, not in the Expo, because the Expo has to remove everything from there. But in fact, since we don't know what it was going to happen, we were working with materials that within the circular system are, let's say, are working. So the wood structure is the most sustainable structure you can do, because actually any piece of wood can go back to the market. If they are big enough, they will be cut into different pieces for other projects. If they are not big enough, they could be made into terrain, whatever this is called. Okay, so the smaller piece you can get out of the wood, and they will create new materials for building. So it's 100% reusable. The wood. We are working, covering the box with recycled plastic coming from the oceans. There's a company actually from Valencia that is taking all the nets that the fishers are using for fishing, and they are turning them into construction materials. They are turning them actually into plastic panels. And it was super good working with the discourse, but also with the circularity. And they take the panels, they can redo this process many, many times. We've learned of many materials amazing. For instance, instead of using plasterboard for the walls, we are using boards made out of paper. In the very, very last use of the paper, when they cannot be even paper, there's a company that buys all this paper and turn them into boards that can be used for separation. I mean, we are learning about many, many, many interesting things, and we are doing a ceramic facade. Ceramic is the most one of the most difficult materials to be reused, but of course is at the same time a very Spanish material, and we are working with recycling this, bringing back to all the ceramics to Spain and using it in public spaces for plazas and benches and other elements around our country. And this is something we are going to do. We are going to bring back all the ceramics. We are working with Boadilla, who is a very important producer for architects from Barcelona. And this is an image of just 3 days ago, because we are getting 12 different blues. The blue is the color that is most difficult to get naturally when you are doing this process to the ceramics. But in fact, we are doing also the paste of the ceramics. We are doing it blue because we need this to be non-slippery. So all the pieces have to be cutted, so we will see the inside. So we need the inside also to be blue. I mean, we are making an amazing work. I mean, not we. Boadilla is making an amazing work for us. So in order to get these blue ceramics, but at the end, the pavilion, from the architecture point of view, is again a system, is again industrialized. We are working with one single structural element, that is this double pilar with this T-beam that creates the full pavilion. It's just one detail, only one detail. So again, trying to be very concise on the decisions we make. So to make a very difficult situation very simple. And this repeated 42 times, it creates the full space of the pavilion, the box that is there, but also the space for the entrance being covered from rain and sun. The weather in Osaka is super heavy. It's very warm in summer. The sun is very heavy and it rains at the same time. So we need really this space covered and all this space underneath for the venues, for the different venues to happen. So I will not go through the functioning of the building, but at the end is one singular circulation that is happening. People entering, people going through the exhibition, people exiting through the commercial program. And of course, I will not go through the floor plans, but it's too detailed to explain. But yes, I wanted to explain this biggest folie we've done ever. So within this space, we are just placing a huge object that contains all the services for the different for all the 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, restaurant, multipurpose room, shop, and bar over there. So within this space we only place this huge folie, and this folie separates the spaces and serves the spaces. This is like the space underneath, how it will look when we come to the beach after being inside the ocean, and the night time, because it's very important. The Expo has a long day and it has to be seen also during the nighttime. And this happened just after 3 or 4 months of development of the project. Then we had this meeting with the client, amazing client. We are super happy with them because they are a big company dedicated to cultural events, governmental company, okay. But they do have specialists on many different small things. And we were having a meeting with a woman who is organizing all the events in the pavilion, who is bringing Rosalia. Rosalia will be singing here. And so there's a woman that is dedicated to this. And we were making the presentation to her, and we were explaining the room we had for the event. And then we came to this image, like the last image always. And she said, "Oh, come on, you've made this a stage for me." And we said, "No, this is just the entrance room." And she said, no, this is my stage. I'm going to be occupying this space every night. And so these things happen when you have a good client and they understand your architecture, and you suddenly learn that you've done something that you were not even expecting. So at the end, this is architecture. When you discuss with people and you realize that you've done something more important than you expected. So thank you very much. This is the very last one. Of course, if you want to ask something, I'm very happy to.
Thank you so much, Néstor, for this lecture.
Thank you.
It was so diverse, actually, and even the first projects were somehow following the same strategy. I would say.
Yeah.
And well, if somebody has some questions.
I just wanted to ask about do you know the name of the company that basically produces the reused plastic material?
This is amazing because I've given this lecture 3 times within the Hispalyt context. It is always the same first question. It's amazing. Actually, thank you, because otherwise I would have to come up with it. But yes, they are called Gravity Wave. Gravity Wave. They were not planning to do construction materials because they were actually doing the boards for furniture. But since we encouraged them to get some documents that could allow us to use them for building, they did. So now they are making really construction materials. They are amazing. Thank you for the question.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna sit, sorry. Congratulations. And I think you are better than me. I'm enjoying. Not sure. I like to say because I'm enjoying my second opportunity in my life to study architecture. I started when I was the age, and I came into Valencia in this second opportunity. I think that like when I grow up, I like to do what you are doing. I like to be like this. My question is about the library, because I'd like to ask about how the coexistence, how the restrictions of a building, a condition, your not the problem, because the problem is similar, but I like to ask in another way. If you didn't have these restrictions, would you get a so amazing project? That those restrictions, how the restrictions sometimes, like in sports, the height had to jump, or how the resistance conditions, the final result. Yeah. No, thank you. I'd love actually to have the chance to study again architecture. No, really. When I meet my students every Monday and Tuesday, and we push them to do things that I would very much be doing, it's amazing. So I'm very happy for you. And thank you for the question also. Actually, doing refurbishing it has just this thing you're saying. We could see them as a restriction or restrictions, or we could see them as opportunities to do something different. And this is what we did. I very briefly mentioned that the building only had 250 between slabs. We all know, and if you don't, now you do. 250 is the minimum height for a use in Spain. So that was the slab and the slab, so nothing else in between. So we had to do all the installations without wasting 1 single centimeters of height. Otherwise, we were in trouble. So restrictions, yes, but opportunities to understand that when we do, and I'm gonna try to go back to the floor plan. When we do this system we made of layers of onions, let's go back to this floor plan. So when we do this and we create this space and we're surrounded by books, because actually those spaces are always surrounded by books, and we do these other spaces here, we may use this very thin line, so the shelves and the books, in order to put all the installations over there. So all the climate of the building is just running on top of the shelves over there. So if I show you again this image, for instance, okay, this is not regular situation because we had double height, but this is happening on this height when we are on a regular floor, and we push the air over there and we take it back from this very little lift we made of the shelves. I mean, we really need to design not only the MEP systems, but we need to design the bookshelves in order to work together with the MEP for this space. So the idea of surrounding these rooms by books was on the very beginning of the strategies of the project, but then they became also an extra in order to solve other problems of the building. So as I said, restrictions, they are restrictions, but they are opportunities, huge opportunities to do things. And actually, this is the first time I really build in brick. But why not doing it if someone else did it before you and it worked very well with the surrounding? Actually, the surrounding is full made out of brick. So from my 2019, or no, sorry, 2017, this competition, from my 2017 point of view of materials, of contemporary materials, maybe I couldn't have chosen brick. But we chose brick because the brick was there. It could be seen as a restriction or as an opportunity to be here. So I think at the end you see it as an opportunity, you start working with this, and you find your own way of doing things through these restrictions. So I don't know if this answers your question, but I hope it does.
Questions?
Thank you, first of all, for the lecture, and it has been great. I have enjoyed it very, very much.
Thank you.
So, I think that all the projects that you selected and the way in which you exposed them has been really, really nice.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask one question, and it's regarding the explanation you did about clouds. Because I think that you didn't went into a point in which you explained how this can be brought up when you design a new project, or if it has already appeared, or if it's something that you have them floating like a cloud, but you are expecting to at some point in your career to be developed in more detail or with more radical
Yeah.
way. Then when I saw the last project, then I thought maybe there's something floating around because the reflection in the ocean and dam was and also from the explanation you did, I suppose that you imply the cloud not as the shape, not as in the in the arc of elephants in which we see the cloud. No? But which, by the way, in the first image you talked about the window, something looking through the window. But well, this, I suppose that it's not a literal image of a cloud, but this kind of existence, like you said, that can be forever or disappear, appear, or deform, split. So,
well, first, thank you. It's a very difficult question because, as I said at the beginning, my English is not that good. So sometimes I cannot explain myself when I come to very specific things like the thoughts we do have about clouds. Because, of course, it's not the shape. But if we understand the cloud as one single particle, because the cloud at the end is one single particle that is repeated many times, and depending on the context, these particles become different things. They can become different type of clouds. So this has to do with the first attractions we described, like the series of things or the smaller elements that can be repeated through the project. And the cloud at the end is just this. It's just one single particle with, of course, some aspects that will make them change through the context and the context, nothing else. Of course, many other layers like the time, as I tried to say, but but of course it's definitely not the shape. Actually, my PhD thesis, ongoing thesis, has the cloud as a very first element to think about. Is going towards the perimeters at the end, but it doesn't really matter. But there's a huge collection of more than 500 images of what a cloud towards architecture could be. And of course, it's never the shape, because the shape happens only once on one very small piece of second. Only once. It doesn't stay. So the shape is not the thing about the cloud, it's just the rest of it. Actually, the shape is the only thing about the cloud that is not. So, of course, I agree with you. It's not about ladder fans, it's more about the Diller Scofidio doing the Blue Building, or about the performative way of the architecture. So how the architecture performs with people. It could be discussed also about a cloud, but never the shape. But to me, it's always a reference. It's beautiful to bring some images up when we are making a competition and to say, okay, guys, this is the cloud we are going to look for in this in this competition. Let's discuss about it. And it's always a starting point. It's nice. So.
Thank you for the lecture. There's a lot to learn, and I would really like to look more into your catalog and actually see what I can come up with. I wanted to ask, what was your, let's say, inspiration, or what's something that made you awake and made you see architecture in this type of way?
Wow. If someone wants to answer to this, I leave the floor to whoever wants to answer this. No, I mean, this question is super difficult. Okay, so there's one thing that, there's one thing we need to think always when we do architecture, and it's the complexity of it. Making architecture is super complex. You cannot imagine how complex it is. I don't even imagine how complex it is. Okay? It's always more complex than you expect, always. Okay? So if we try from the beginning to solve everything that can come to us, we will never get to the end, never. So I think it's important to concentrate on one single thing. And then from that thing, you could try to find answer to other layers that appear in the process, okay? So this is how I see what we do. So when I explained our first building, we really thought about this. If we are going to face the construction of these 100 units with a very reduced budget, really amazingly small budget, we are going to be fighting against everyone all the time. So let's try to solve one very small thing, and from there, let's try to answer to the rest of questions. Of course, when we came to the first meeting on the building site, the construction company proposed us to do pillars on the cantilevers. The very first day, okay? And we were there on our very first building site visit, looking towards each other and saying, what do? We don't do pillars because the whole system solves the problem. If you do pillars, it's more expensive. So don't do pillars. So very small decisions and try to answer from there everything. Is this an inspiration? That maybe your question was more about inspiration. No, it's not an inspiration, but it's a way of working. Because the inspiration is not something that you can share. My inspiration and your inspiration comes from very different things. Always. Always. Because how you look to the site and how I look to the site, if the site is a way in where to find inspiration, is different. My background, your background, everything is different. Absolutely. From everyone here in the room is different. So we cannot share inspirations. We can share the way we work. And this is what I try to do here. So when we come to fetishes, I said, maybe you see this floor plan of San Pedro de la Nave and you feel nothing. But all my hearts are doing like this when I say it, you know? So is this my inspiration? Can I share it with you? I can. Can you feel the same? No.
For the lecture and for sharing with us your experience. About solving the problems, I have one specific question about the library. We have a very nice, beautiful brick facade. But what is interesting for me, how you solved the situation about natural light in the daytime hours, because okay, in the last floor, maybe the room is somehow solving that, but how you solved that?
Yeah. Well, actually, the facade is solving it also. Wait a second. I can't. It's here. In the competition, during the competition, we thought that we were going to make different brickworks towards the different orientations. So when we were facing north, we are not facing north here, okay? But if we were facing north, we would do much more open celosía. If we were facing south, much closer in order to avoid the sun, the direct sun. After making some studies on the site and on the size of the brickwork we were doing, it was very well working towards east, south, and west. It was well working for the sun exposure, letting some sun in from south in the winter, not letting it in the summer. This is very simple decision, not very complicated. But it was also working towards the amount of natural light that was entering the room. As I said on the floor plans, all the main rooms are always facing one facade. And from there, they are taking the light. But when you use these big rooms, so for instance, this one here that has a smaller opening towards the side is mainly storage of books, okay? So we don't need natural light here. We do need natural light here because someone comes, pick the book, gives it to you, and you use it, okay? This is only for researchers. But when we come to a more open room like this one or like that one, we need to be more exposed to the facade. So at the end, natural light is coming from our facade through the celosía and then second glass facade. There's also something about libraries that we learned in the process, and is that there's no one right situation of light for every user of the library. Some people like reading in the sun, some people like reading or studying under artificial light because they concentrate better, they don't have shades, they don't have, So at the end, the matter is to create an ambiance and to leave the user to control their very specific spot of the library. That is just their chair, their table, and their artificial light that they can use. Okay, so this is more or less the way we work here, and we learned it here because the first library we do, so we learned it here.
Maybe the last one.
First of all, thank you for the lecture. I have a question regarding the first project that you had, the one you presented about the
Yes.
I was wondering if there's something that you would do completely differently based on the experience you have right now. And if there's anything that, for
Yes.
example, you learned from that experience, and then you have adopted that solution into other projects later on.
Yeah, definitely the answer is yes to both questions. To the question of if we could do different things now of what we did, yes. But I'm impressed on how, I don't know which is the right word to use, but how contemporary this building is within our agenda, within our project. I don't mean towards the world of architecture. I only mean towards what we are doing on our tables. This is still very, very fresh or very happening now, more or less the same things. But yes, actually, when I decided to show these two housing projects one next to each other, is because I think what we understood at that time that should be the unit with a very let's say divided rooms. Now we definitely don't think it should be like this. Okay, so the typology of the type of the unit, from my point of view, now should be different. So the question would be, could we get to this construction system with the concrete block and the cantilevers without all these partitions within the unit? I'm not sure. So I'm sure we should have decided to place some of the concrete elements in order to make a very rigid block so we can hang the cantilevers. So this would be the discussion about what to change or what not to change, is how to relate the partitions of the unit and the use of the unit together with the construction system. Maybe we would do it differently, but not so different. Okay. So this is to answer the first question, and I forgot the second question, even though I said already yes. Yeah. Definitely industrialization. Yeah, this is something we learned on that project. We learned that this was a way of building architecture, understanding that the industry has a lot to offer to you as an architect, that there are a lot of systems that you don't even know they exist, that you can use them to help your architecture to be as you want it to be. So to be related with the industry, this is something that we learned on that project. So at the end, being surrounded of many people that knows much more than you about many things, much more than me, about many things, and learning from them on how to improve your constructions. So this is something we keep on doing. We do it with Kumeya now. I mean, we just said we want 12 plus, and he's creating more than 12 plus because he's so much into the project that he's helping us a lot on doing things. Of course, we cannot come with the blues. He has to be the one. So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are gonna close here.
My batteries are low too.
So thank you so much, Néstor, for all these experiences.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.